What's good, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Keep in mind, Rippaverse.com/store if you visit it. I'm going to pull it up right now. Actually, you can still get in on final days. Still get in, though, on the merch sale that we have going on right now. Again, orders over $75. We will be waiving shipping for the domestic orders that are over $75. 15% off of all merchandise-based items. Make sure you go check that out. But today, I do have a hilarious video. This person, I've seen this person hop up in like feeds pertaining to the Rippaverse. And look, man, we covered it enough of just how stupid a lot of people are, but I just want you to pay attention to that and how emotionally sort of tied these people are to the they wanted, let's say this, their emotional attachment was to the failure of that they wanted to, let's say, be placed upon the Rippaverse, right? They banked on it all. They were so committed to it all. And because they never got that failure, in fact, they got the complete opposite, and what they got was a success. That made a lot of people irate. So we started with the denial, right? It's that it won't ever come out, and it's not going to be comparable to like anything that's being put, let's say, out in the comic book industry. Well, those two boxes got checked. And then once they saw the numbers just completely go up, that made them more and more angry, because they would have thought that, well, if it does come out, it's not going to be supported by that many people. And then come to find out, well, $3.7 million later, I mean, both copies, A and B, sold out. In terms of us reaching our threshold on that, all comic book shops that got the book, including one of the biggest online retailers in mycomicshop.com, with two waves of cover A and B, sold out of those. You cannot deny it's a success. So we've talked about the goalposts being moved just everywhere. But this one right here was one of the, like, kind of just it's a conspiracy. That now that I guess this is the part where they try to come up with like, well, this is what happened, because the success can't be denied, so there has to be something else. Now the thread, now would it be very clear, the person that posted the original thread, I don't see him as like disrespecting myself. So the tonic mold, I'm not, I want to be clear, and I don't want people to try to present it as he's like the problem here. What he produced was some valid sort of observation of the industry itself. And he says that the closest to mainstream success that we've gotten from crowdfunded comics, though when ISOM isn't a crowdfund comic, he says is Eric July's ISOM. But he says that comes with a major caveat. It was largely fueled by political discourse. I disagree with that. With that part, we've yet to see flat-footed success like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the 80s, or whether that's even possible. Well, and when I say I disagree, it's more of the political discourse that happened around ISOM was not by the people that were supportive of ISOM. It was by the people that hated myself. And so they made it political immediately, despite us coming out saying that that's not what this company is about. With the first trailer, the first thing that you got from the company, from the trailer, was exactly us saying that we're not interested in like the on-the-nose politics or anything like that. But of course, the outsiders, because of my personal, let's say, anti-political approach, they don't like me, and that's fine, whatever it is. But where I said that I disagreed is, or let's say the context needs to be added to this, in that you're dealing in a different era. Not everything was looked through the political lens in the 80s and the 90s, right, like it is now. That's not to say there weren't political aspects or people that focused on politics, but certainly as it pertained to comics, for the most part, nobody cared about that, right? This wasn't a completely like where it's one-sided, beating audience over the head with a certain like slant of politics with like a brand. So what happened is with like Marvel and DC, definitely after 2015, 2016, they wanted to really, really emphasize some of the political aspects of it. We know the political aspects of the aspirations, let's say, and social aspirations of the actual creatives. They are very open with it on social media, which didn't exist like it does now. It didn't exist in the 80s and 90s. So you have something that was introduced that is it's a different era. The context completely changes, and they set the scene. The big two especially set the scene with how it is. So the adjustments have been made on not just myself, but other folks who have just become like the opposite of them, but others like myself are just not doing what they do. So you have to consider the context. This whole flat-footed success it's not to say that can't happen, but it's a different era as well, with the era of social media and as well as the political emphasis. But get a load of this jackass here who says ISOM got mainstream success because it's a mainstream book propped up by the mainstream media and just pretends to be indie. Okay, so, and I asked him this, though he never answered. What the hell, if this isn't indie, what the hell is independent? If ISOM isn't indie, says got mainstream success, and I'm trying to figure out he says that it was propped up by the mainstream media, and before there was any coverage of any like article by way of any of these let's say popular media brands, we'd already hit $1 million. We hit $1 million in the first day. This is about as organic as it possibly can be. There was no outside external funding or any of that. So he says, I don't think we need to chase mainstream numbers to be successful as much as we need to make quality stories that reach people all over the world. Well, that's what success looks like, jackass, is that people are, if they want it, they're going to be in on it and they're going to actually buy it. That's how it works. So with that being said, this guy then goes this route, and he says they did, and speaking to or replying to someone that said Blaze or Fox pushed it. Now, Blaze is not mainstream media. If you want to say Fox is like the biggest right-wing publication in terms of the media, whatever, but Blaze certainly wouldn't fall into that category. In fact, it was made when you consider Blaze Media with Glenn and spearheading it, he was leaving Fox. You know what I'm saying? Nonetheless, listen to this conspiracy. He says the Blaze gave him funding and advertising and got him that Fox interview. Okay, that entire statement is false. Blaze has nothing to do with the Rippaverse. And those guys, hilariously enough, the article that they did, number one, it didn't happen until after we made $1 million. Number two, I didn't ask them to do that. One of the writers, who's now ironically with Fox, I think Chris Pandolfo, at the time was with Blaze, one of the Blaze writers. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we cover this story? Can I get you to have a little interview?" And we sat down and we did the interview. I didn't ask for them to do that. I didn't require them to do that, and I didn't pay for them to do it. They just did it, right? And it would make sense considering that I do like News and Why It Matters and various video contributions with Blaze. But they didn't fund it. They had nothing to do. There was no money put in by Blaze for the Rippaverse. And they didn't get me the Fox News interview. Fox News covered the story for the same reason Blaze covered it, and that was that the success could not be denied, right? They covered it because it was a huge success. And they didn't cover it until it was a huge success, and they wanted to know more about it. Again, both of those articles didn't happen until after we hit $1 million. So he's lying, right? Just flat out, like this is a falsehood that he's perpetuating. Like it's not true. Like Blaze never gave a dime, right? They never gave a dime to this project. There's no event. There was nobody that gave a dime to the project. It was funded by myself. I'm the one that put up $200,000 to make it happen. I'm the one that paid all the people. I'm the one paying all my staff. I'm the one doing all of that. That's what I did. All right. He says Eric never even tried to make a comic until the ISOM group. I don't even know what that means. He's never made a comic or tried to make a comic until he made a comic. Like, what does that even? What are you trying to say? He never made a comic until he made a comic. The only things he can advertise his stuff by is being a black conservative because he's not even a real creator. I'm not a conservative. I'm black, but I'm not a conservative. That's pretty open about that. I mean, it's in like the bio of my Twitter what I am. I'm not a conservative. And I don't know what is a real creator versus a non-real creator, and ISOM isn't my first like creative project. I've been doing creative stuff since I was a teenager, especially in music. How do you think we got like the first big push for myself as a creative? It came through music, right? Being a frontman of Fire from the Gods, then being a frontman of Backwards, Billboard charting bands. I don't know what to tell you. Look, you haters are fun. You make me a lot of money, but I'm not your therapist. You guys got internal issues, though, that you do need to get addressed. When you are tied to this so emotionally that you just are irate, irritated, right, at the fact that we saw success, that you have to make up conspiracies to try to explain it, shows that you have some internal problems. And a lot of it is just you don't like me, and it's for what? That I talk about what's going on in the industry, and I may have an opinion about a comic book character that differs from yours. Like, that's what does it, bro, for you? You have mental problems, man, and you need to get that addressed, because that says a lot about your ability to handle disagreements, or your ability to be able to deal with your ideological enemy actually being successful. That's a problem that you have, and I'm afraid that I can't be the one to fix it. I can't. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.